what do you think is the biggest threat to your country? This index measures this for G7 and BRICS countries, and the results are not what you expect. So here are the biggest threats to each country from lowest to highest GDP. For South Africa, the biggest threats are environmental issues, economic crisis, and energy supply disruption.
I would say primarily the cause of this is long-standing corruption.
And also they're way less concerned about the US, Russia, and China compared to last year. Canadians think their biggest security risks are extreme weather, Russia, and then China at number 8 and Iran at number 11.
I'm concerned for our economic security. The exchange rate was already bad, and I feel like first this, then right now I would say the US.
The biggest increase in risks since last year is the United States. Environmental issues dominate the top risks for Brazil, and it's the highest by far out of all countries studied. And also domestic concerns like inequality and polarization seem to trouble Brazil a lot more than external threats. Italy's top 3 risks are all environmental issues, and the perceived risk from Russia is quite low at number 12. People who know, and the biggest increase in threats since last year is also the United States. For France, the biggest threats are radical Islamic terrorism, Russia, extreme weather, and climate change in general. And out of all the countries in the study, they have the highest perceived risk of civil war. The biggest increase in risk since last year, the United States. For the UK, Russia remains the biggest security concern.
They also have a large number of Russian oligarchs that live inside the UK. There was a UK national that was assassinated on British soil.
Followed by cyber attacks, mass migration, the use of nuclear weapons, and economic crisis. And it's the only country in the G7 for which the biggest increase in threat does not come from the United States, but actually is the use of nuclear weapons and trade wars. For India, all top 3 risks are all climate change related. China for them is the 8th greatest risk. The Japanese consider China and North Korea bigger risks than anybody else. And the biggest increase in threat since last year is also the United States. Germany's top threats are mass migration, radical Islamic terrorism, and Russia.
Germany would be the country where all the militaries of NATO would go through.
The biggest increase since last year is the threat from the United States. China views the United States as the biggest security concern, followed by nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons. Out of all countries, they are the most concerned about pandemics and the least concerned about Russia, Iran, and North Korea. The top 3 risks for the United States are cyber attacks, Russia, and misinformation. And out of all the G7 countries, they have the lowest perceived risk of the extreme weather and forest fires, and the threat that increased the most is actually trade wars. Let me know in the comments